Welcome to the next lesson in our Statistics for Trading course. This lesson is on the EPP statistic that you find on our 30-minute range statistics reports. The purpose of this lesson is to help you understand just what the EPP statistic is and how you might use it in your thought process while trading. Knowing statistics and how to use them are the basis for thinking in probabilities. Let's get started. How do we use the EPP statistic? We would first encourage you to please watch the Inside PP lesson prior to viewing this video. It explains our reports and some of the basics, and this statistic, the EPP, really starts where the IPP, the Inside PP rather, statistic stops. So the Inside PP statistic is complete once either the high or the low of the previous 30-minute period has been touched or tagged or passed through. That's when you start looking at the EPP statistic. Now, you should have a 30-minute bar chart on your screen when you're trading, because what that does for you, it provides a visual relationship. You can see the relationship of the current bar to the previous 30-minute period, whether the top or the bottom has been tagged or not. Now, we say that this is optional because we are working on an indicator that will make the 30-minute chart unnecessary. Now you can see it here on the screen. So this indicator is in development. It's only for NinjaTrader 8 traders. So if you're not a NinjaTrader 8 trader, you will still need the 30-minute bar chart on your screen unless you have some other indicator that does this. What it does is it draws a box and shades it around the previous 30-minute period, as you can see here. And the little red box at the lower left at the bottom of the previous 30-minute period is what the range was, the high minus the low of the previous 30-minute period. And then the current period that you're trading in, the current 30-minute period, draws a line at the top and the bottom of the previous 30-minute range. So this gives you a visual way of seeing when you're trading where you are in relation to the 30-minute prior period, whether the top has been tagged or the bottom has been tagged, or you're still inside, or if you're outside, things like that. And you see there's a little red box with the number 14 in it at the lower left of the current 30-minute period. That tells you what the range has been so far during the period. So we hope to be releasing this soon. So check back frequently, and we'll try to make this available pretty soon. Now, the other thing that the EPP statistic does for you, and this is probably the most important thing, is once one of the 30-minute prior range high or lows have been tagged, a protected area is created. Now, we're going to get into this a little bit when we start looking at our reports, but this is very important because you'll have a statistical understanding of where the market is likely not to go in the current 30-minute period. Now, this can be very important while trading. And of course, you may discover other ways to use this EPP statistic, but that's the primary reason that we have it. That's kind of what it's been designed to do. But of course, when you start using this in conjunction with other statistics, you see really the power of looking at these statistics. One other thing that you might notice is that as we go through these lessons, we see that these statistics work together. For instance, we start with the Inside PP statistic, and then when it is completed, the EPP statistic takes over. And in a future lesson, we'll be considering the CIPP statistic, which will work in harmony with the EPP statistic. So it's very important. It's really the best to learn them in this order. And so if you watch those lessons in this order, that's why we say the inside PP lesson should be watched first, then the EPP lesson, and then the CIPP lesson that's going to be released here shortly. Just what is the EPP statistic? Well, here we see on the screen an encompassing bar. So the statistic defines how often any given 30-minute period encompasses the prior 30-minute period. Here we see, to help you to visualize it better, we took a line and drew it at the high of the red bar and the low of the red bar. And we see the current bar, the green bar, has passed through both the high and the low. This makes it an encompassing bar. Now you may have heard it used, explained in different terms. You may have heard it called an outside bar, or you may have called it an engulfing bar. We call it an encompassing bar. Our EPP stat identifies how often this happens in every 30-minute period. Here we see an example of one of our 30-minute range reports. This happens to be the crude oil report. I think this is the same report that we used in the inside PP lesson. Now take a note of the second column there, the period ending, as we covered in the inside PP lesson. That's the period ending. For instance, the top one is 9:30, so that means it would be the period between 9 a.m. and 9:30 a.m. And if you go down to the next column, a few columns down, you'll see our EPP column. This is the column that tells us statistically how often the bar for that period ending is an encompassing bar, or has touched or passed through both the top and the bottom of the previous period. Let's take a look at the period ending 10:30 a.m. on this chart. We see that in the past 30 days, at least as of this chart, it was never an encompassing bar, meaning it went out, touched one side, and never went back down to the opposing side. But we look at longer term, it was about a little over 3% of the time in the past 90 days, a little less than 5% of the time in the last 180 days, and a little bit over 6% of the time over the past year. Now, of course, these, as mentioned before, are calendar days, not trading days. And it would be as of the date that would be in the header of the report that you would be looking at, which is generally the previous Friday's close is what our reports are based on. Can we use this statistic to decide when a good time to trade is? Well, you could. Most of us generally want to trade when there is a decent amount of range, like you see here. We have this period has a low EP and a high range. Pretty much all of our stats help us to get an idea of this. Here's another example. Low EP, high range. So again, this is potentially a good time to trade, but really you get a little bit more out of the stat than just that. When you're trading and you have these stats in mind, it kind of gives you an idea. You kind of get a feel for the market, where it's likely to go, perhaps where it's likely not to go. We mentioned at the outset that this stat creates what we call a protected area. Now, just what does that mean? Well, if you look here at this 11 o'clock slot, we have a 5% EPP. So this bar in the past 30 days has only encompassed the previous bar 5% of the time. And there's a decent median range. So again, if we invert the stat, the inverted 5% means it is a 95% chance that it will not go to the other end of the previous 30-minute period. That makes it a protected area. Let's take a look at today. I decided to take a look at today's open. It's February 9th, 2021. This is a crude oil. So I pulled up our report for this week. Here we see the inside PP was 4.55%. Now that got concluded very early during the current 30-minute period. We see that price action went below the low of the previous 30-minute period. So now what that means, if you look at our EPP stat, it's at 27.27%. Let's just call that 27% for the sake of ease of conversation here. We see here that this top line now, during this period, there's only a 27% chance, or we say that that's protected at 73%. We invert that stat. So there's 73% of the time when this scenario happened, it did not go to the other end. Now that can be very, very useful in making decisions while trading. Now, you have to decide for yourself how you would use this, but in some ways, it can be incorporated into money management decisions. I don't know, some different people trade for different swing amounts and different ranges and things like that. When you add this to the CIPP and the range stats, and you start incorporating overnight range and initial balance point, boy, this can really become powerful. It can really help you while you're trading. It can this information can really empower you to make potentially profitable decisions while trading. And that's really what all of these statistics are about. But we're taking them one by one, and we're seeing how they build on each other, and hopefully it will empower you to make better trades. Well, this concludes the EPP lesson. I hope you found it informative. If you're not getting it, or if you're struggling with it, just be patient. It takes time sometimes to be able to fully grasp the power of statistics. And as we go through this course, hopefully it will get better and better, and you'll learn how to think in probabilities. If you're already a person who thinks in probability, then we hope that this statistic does you some good. And remember, here at statsfortrading.com, we believe that knowledge is power, and that you should never take the trader out of the trade. If you found this video to be helpful, please like it and subscribe to our channel. And thank you for watching.